Well, hello and a very warm welcome back to the Andrew Eborn Show. And I'm delighted to be joined today, not by one, but two fantastic singer-songwriters and performers, Alan Young and Andy Ruddy. How are you both?
Wow, we are fabulous. Well, I am. I don't know about you. Are you all right? Fabulous, Andy?
I'm pretty good, thank you, Alan and Andrew.
Oh, yes. Thank you for having us, Andrew.
It's a real pleasure. And I'll tell you what's fabulous is your wonderful facial hair, Alan. I think this is superb.
Yeah, well, it's a lockdown project. It's not actually, it's just, but it's definitely got bigger with lockdown.
I
So,
tell
yeah.
you what, every year I do something called Movember
Yes.
in November, which is celebrating or shining a spotlight, if you like, on mental health and also other issues, men's health issues. And we grow a little moustache. That's all you have to do. You don't climb mountains or anything. You just grow a bit of facial hair. I reckon you would have trumped that one.
Well, it takes longer than a month to do this, I think, unless you squeeze really hard, of course. Yeah.
Is that right? What's really fascinating about you guys, and you are the epitome, if you like, of what lockdown's all about, because people have been re-evaluating themselves, they're forming new alliances, they're shining a spotlight on what's real. And we always start off conversations like, how are you? And, let's talk about nothing at all. And I think what happens now is that we're really sort of drilling down into what are real issues. Now, both of you started very, very different generations, if I can put it that way. Alan, you started life actually in mathematics and a very different career in IT. And it wasn't until later in life that you changed. Talk to me about that.
I think it was always there. It's just that, you realize you're a total obsessive about music and you're playing in bands in the evenings. And then you get a chance to write something and then you realize that to do it properly, you've got to do it properly. And that means stepping out. So yeah, I stepped out about 4 years ago, 3 years out of IT, and decided to wait for a pandemic to sit and do nothing for a year.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I thought I'd do.
And it was that sort of collaboration in lockdown. I mean, you had your own success as an artist. You had your first album, Empty Nest. Was that written from your own experience?
It was written by, yes, it was written through interviewing other people and coming up with ideas. I noticed, for example, you had that lovely interview you did recently with Rainbow George.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
That is the sort of thing that I would write about on Empty Nest.
Yeah,
So
Rainbow George is fantastic because he was Peter Cook's neighbour for a long time, and he knew Lord Lucan and Ian Dury and all those sort of things. And
the sorts of characters are there. I've kind of always been very interested. So, and I really enjoyed. I listened to the full interview this morning about, awful things, but
yes.
I write about that sort of thing. I write about real people. So that first album included me getting attacked by a gangster, a real one.
Oh God.
So that's the sort of that exactly. Only attacked in sense of being overly friendly and breaking my hand to show he could.
So what were the circumstances of that then?
He was on the train. He was sitting on the train and he decided to show me what they did to people like me.
You say people like you. What are people like you?
People, look at me, middle class. So he wanted to. I think he was just a very angry man, and so I was on the way home from work, and he grabbed hold of my hand and broke my hand to show me that he was tougher than me, and I agreed with him, if I'm honest. Yeah.
But a nightmare. I mean, your other album as well. I mean, so talking about real issues, your other album, Time in the Trees. What was that about?
Well, I took it when I came out of working in IT. I thought to try and write something different. I thought I'd go every day for a year into the woods where I live, because I'm stuck in the woods here, which is lovely. But just to sit and think and find what you write. And I ended up writing about finding a body in the brambles as well. I ended up writing about things as if I would, there were characters in the woods, about animals, about trees, but about the stories that happened that are modern. So I'm always interested in stories. I'm a story person.
And I think that's right. I mean, as you say on the show, we have everybody from the rich and famous to everyday folks. So Rainbow George is a regular. We have Mike Reed, but we also have Charles Spencer has been on the show as well, talking about his side. But all of it is weaving that story. And what I love about it, it's shining a spotlight on making people talk and crossing that generational gap. And talk to me then, because it was in lockdown that you contacted Andy. How did that come about?
Well, Andy, do you want to mention that?
Well, yeah. Alan emailed me at the start of lockdown because we'd done a co-write back in normal times in 2019, and it had gone really well. We'd written a nice song, and obviously everyone just found themselves at home. Alan dropped me an email and said, look, I don't know if you've ever tried writing songs on Zoom, which I hadn't. And I wasn't too thrilled about the idea, to be honest, in terms of it's always much nicer to be in a room with a piano. But obviously, because our first session had gone so well and been so enjoyable, I just thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. And before too long, it was kind of a weekly ritual on a Thursday morning. All day on a Thursday, we'd write 2 songs a day sometimes. And it became a bit of a lifesaver during that first lockdown, Andrew.
Yeah, and it is interesting because you yourself started. I mean, you had Alan started in IT. You yourself started life as a lawyer, or you read law, didn't you?
Well, yeah. I never actually went the whole hog of becoming a lawyer. I kind of realised it wasn't for me quite early on. You know, after studying it, I sort of realised that I'm not quite as left side minded as I thought I was, and I followed the musical path quite soon after university. But yeah, I did law. Fun fact.
Well, you can combine both. I went on to qualify as a barrister and a solicitor, and combined representing lots of people in the music industry and various other things as well. So it is possible to perform as well as me. And actually, I always say that the biggest difference between barristers and actors is that barristers write their own script. So you do have that sort of creative.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So all is interesting. So you had that collaboration. It was bridging the gap. The generational gap, and also music styles. Very, very interesting. But what I loved about it is you're looking at real issues, and your single about let's talk about the weather. I mean, that's so British, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, Andy, it was your idea for us to talk about the weather, wasn't it?
It was, but what was really interesting about it, Andrew, was I came at it from quite a cynical point of view. I would say I came at it from I don't want to talk to anyone at the minute. We kind of go into our shells, and I want to avoid talking to people. So if I do have to talk to you, I want to just talk about something meaningless. Let's just talk about the weather. And what was really interesting in that writing session was Alan said, yeah, but what if in the later verses that's just what somebody needs? Maybe someone needs that chat about the weather, you know, and it can change the trajectory of their day. And it became a much warmer song because of that.
Yeah, and I think it does. I mean, you're right, though. It's people want that opportunity to talk. It's when all these shops and various venues are closing down. It's not so much about you can order it online. People do that as a leisure activity, and there are people sitting at home watching this now who are struggling in several ways because they don't have that interaction. It doesn't matter that sometimes it's a bit banal. It's good if you can drill down and open up and talk about issues. But without that human interaction, it's really tricky, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's why we wrote the song about a number of characters talking about the weather and what they were really thinking. So that was it's those little touch points. I'm very aware, you know, quite often it's literally through a door you're talking at the moment, or across a fence, or, you know, you're trying not to breathe in the same air, aren't you? So, but still talking is so important. Just, you know, not stopping. And Zoom is fine. Oh, it's lovely to meet you and to see your chess set, which looks identical to mine. But yeah, we need these. We need the water cooler. We don't have the offices anymore. We're also. I just don't know how people work at home all the time. Frankly, after a year of Zooming. But we need this, and so I think we were interested in what, you know, this grandiose stuff is happening to us, and then we're actually going to say, oh, it's cold out today, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of what we do. It is very British, and I kind of love it.
Oh, well, I think you're right. On one level, it's good to interact, but on the other level, one of the big campaigns that we mentioned Movember earlier, that whole thing, I set up this thing called Canned Laughter, It's Okay Not to Be Okay, where we encourage people to talk about really challenging issues, because everybody gets affected, from the rich and the famous. If you prick me, do I not bleed? You know, everybody's the same. And I think to turn around, and what I love is you get people in the public eye who are starting to open up about real issues and say, look, hang about, we are struggling. And when you get people in the public eye doing about it, and from royalty and lots of celebrities will come out and say, look, we've had real issues and this is how we've coped with it. That's really beneficial.
Yes, I think this song was about us avoiding the issues, but weirdly, the writing of it was us presenting our own issues. So the Thursday writes, I think we've just about finished them now. I think yesterday was pretty well the last one. We've got an album, or we've got several albums worth of songs. But the actual act of because the big part of lockdown is routine, I find. is putting that rhythm of once a week to sit down and stare at Andy for several hours. Sorry, mate. It's incredible. It's a real discipline in writing as well, because you sit there, some days you've got nothing. Yeah. And some days you've got, your brain is buzzing, but it's got very little to do with the outside world. It's all about your mental condition.
Sure. So talk to me, Andy, then about how you collaborate over Zoom, because a lot of people, as you say, it's a different way of working. Normally you sit down in a smoky bar somewhere and discuss things and the creativity flows. We're now doing it in this medium. Talk to me, Andy, about how you managed.
Well, there's the sort of technical side, which is we'll go on a thing called Google Docs. I don't know if you use it, Andrew, where the two people can edit the same, essentially, Word document at the same time.
Absolutely. Google will sponsor us forevermore now that you've mentioned them. Other platforms are available, but yes.
Oh, they've actually already paid me, Andrew.
Oh, good. Well done.
Is that you being an influencer, Andrew?
I think that's what happens. It's always a joy.
I can't help it. It's my generation. So we would use Google Docs, and both me and Alan would bring ideas to the table. First half hour tended to be a chat. But Alan has this concept he calls the car park, where whoever's talking, the other person will kind of transcribe the interesting bits, and we'll just chat. And by the time we've finished maybe talking for 20 minutes about what we're interested in, maybe potentially doing a song about, we'll have this car park below where the eventual song gets written. We'll have a bunch of lyrical ammunition of the most interesting things that we've said. So it just starts with a conversation, and then perhaps it depends on the day. We'll both bring musical ideas to the table, but we would then, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So that's how we do it. But I would say, like, if there's one thing with our project, going back to what you were saying before, whether it's a hit record or whether it's an album that ends up getting released, I mean, we've got a bunch of songs that will probably never be released. Just in terms of a therapeutic activity in 2020, it was a lifesaver. So, if people haven't done that, which I was 50-50 when I started doing it on Zoom, I think they should take the step and try and do something creative over Zoom, because it's really, really good for you.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it so much.
I've actually been lucky enough to be involved with a set of dancers who do create digital work over Zoom, and they're all over 60. And they're doing this stuff they call 3 Score, and they do this stuff as a collaboration over Zoom to build films of dance in their own homes. And that's kind of, I've been the technical guy, right, sort of background, but it is, this whole Zoom, it's a total new ways of creativity. And obviously you are doing it too, right? So it's, I think it's the new normal. I think we're actually going to.
I think you're right, but it's still about, this is just a means of communication, as you say. It's all about content. Technology will change and evolve in our children's lifetime and so on and so forth. But what won't change is touching on what we said beforehand, the ability to tell a story. I mean, just before Christmas, we were all in big studios up in Watford, lots of camera crews and things like that. And obviously in the current climate, we cannot do that. So we turn around and say, let's bring it back down. So this is how people are communicating. But the messages are still the same. And what I love is that people talk about adversity, and adversity brings out the wonderful creative side. Nothing unites people more than a common enemy. And if we view that the world, the common enemy is the virus, let's look at these collaborations, let's bridge those divides and things like that. The other glorious thing about what you've done is that video, which I love. It's got the Invisible Man in there, it's got all these different things, and the singing is superb. Who came up with that concept?
No, I think we put out we use a thing called Creative Commissions, where you basically put out ideas and say, come back to us with what, we've written about this, what do you write back? And we got a bunch of lovely stuff, which was basically the same idea from several filmmakers. And one person who refused, said, I don't like the brief, here's what I got. I think you should be invisible people in an old hall. I went, oh my God, I love that. So we worked with this a filmmaker called Maya Avadoff. And so she came down to our local village hall, where and Andy came down. And we had to socially distance make the film in these, as you said, invisible men. They were all invisible. That's us. And a dancer from the 3 Score gang. We were 3 of us in these suits where you can't see. What you miss on the thing is us falling over and bumping into things. So no one says this about green screen, that when you've got a thing covering your face.
Oh yeah.
And they say, oh yeah, just paint. And we're going, where's the paper? And so, so a lot of it is us trying to find out where we are with green
I've
suits on.
just about forgiven him, Andrew.
Yeah, your face.
only recently.
But it was absolutely, it must have been so much fun to shoot it. Where did you shoot it?
Yeah,
It was a good day. It was fun.
I mean, yes, it's great to work with someone really out there creatively, and also we were all throwing our ideas in. So there's one where there's hours and hours of footage which we didn't use that I think I'll go back and mine for more videos. But,
I love it. No, but really creative, and even the hug at the end and the reveal is, without giving it away, it is a superb video. And what I particularly like, one of my aunts on my father's side was an actress called Jill Ireland, and she used to be married to Charles Bronson, and before that, David McCullum. And David McCullum, very famously in the TV series, used to play the Invisible Man. So it brought back all sorts of glorious memories on that sort of side. But fun to do. Well, I love the single. I wish you every success with that. Hopefully, it would be great to have you both back, as lockdown, I think, is going to continue for a few more weeks at least. But for now, Alan and Andy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Just before we go, there's two things I wanted to check with you. There's, first of all, the genius producer, Chris Pepper. We should mention him. Tell me about Chris.
Oh, yeah. Chris is the world's shyest man and will now die of embarrassment. But we know it. He's the man behind the scenes where we basically record in these two. In fact, where Andy's sitting and where I'm sitting right now is where we record. And then we send up the stuff to Chris, and then somehow it comes back and it's truly amazing. His is Wednesdays. We're Thursdays writing. He's Wednesdays recording.
Perfect. And the other thing, so Chris Pepper, good shout out for him. We'll get him on the show next time as well. We can do this. It's not like, do you remember the old celebrity squares they used to have on Zoom? So you have all the people in their boxes. You're down there, he's down there. On this sort of thing. The other thing I should ask you as well is a great name, Serious Child. Where did that come from?
That came from the fact that I was a really serious kid. So that's that when we were coming up with band, originally it was a band name. And then, when that came up as the idea, everyone, that's you, Mr. Serious. And now as I'm advanced in age, I'm a big kid. So it seems to fit both ways around. Is that fair, Andy? You've had 9 months of writing.
Yeah, well, you've chilled out a bit, thank God.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for the vote.
Brilliant. Well, it's lovely to see you guys. We will get you back. As I say, I do love the single.
We've got loads more.
Fantastic. We'll dig those out as well. Keep me posted. But for now, Alan and Andy, thank you so much for being my guests.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So thank you again to Serious Child and Andy Ruddy for being my guests here on the show. If you have any thoughts or any suggestions for other people you think should have the spotlight shone on them, write to me at guests@octopustv.com. That's guests@octopustv.com. And don't forget, subscribe on all the usual platforms over to Octopus TV. And you can follow me at Andrew Eborn, at Octopus TV, at Stellar TV 4, all there. Anyway, thank you again for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. But for me, for now, bye-bye.